Hello everybody, so today we're going to be doing a few questions on biology, mainly cells, um, plants and the heart. So let's start. Section A, choose the correct option. Which organelles are found in both animal and plant cells? 1. Cell membrane. 2. Cell wall. 3. Nucleus. 4. Sap vacuole. Both plant, animal and plant cells. It could be 1 and 2 or 1 and 3, which it is 1 and 3 because 1 and 2 is not there. So 1 and 3. The diagram shows a plant cell. Which structure identifies this as a plant cell rather than an animal cell? So firstly, all of these are available in animal cells also. They also have cell membrane, cytoplasm and nucleus. But the only thing which one of the few things which make them differ is the cell wall. So the answer is cell wall. The diagram shows a plant cell. Which label structure controls the passage of substances into and out of the cell? So the organelles, so what controls is called the cell membrane. It controls which substances come in and out. You might be thinking it could be the cell wall, but no, the cell wall isn't, because it only provides Turgor pressure and it provides structural support to the plant. So over here we can see that this line is the cell membrane, so the answer is B. The diagram shows a single-celled organism called euglena. Which label structure should be also found in an animal cell? So over here we know that animal cells don't have chloroplast, also here, and over here they don't have a large permanent vacuole. But C is correct because they have cell membrane, cytoplasm and a nucleus. So C. Number 5. Which row shows the correct functions of xylem and phloem? We already discussed xylem and phloem. So amino acids is transported by the phloem together with sucrose. And the xylem transports mineral ions dissolved in water. So the answer over here is A. Which are the features of gas exchange surfaces in animals? In animals, so it could be talking about the alveoli, which we know the alveoli has thin walls and has a large surface area. So here it is thin walled and large surface area, which is found in the alveoli. The diagram shows a section to the heart. Which part is the septum? The septum is the middle part separating the both sides of the heart, the right side and the left side. So the middle is called the septum. So C is the answer. Which row shows the features of an artery or a vein? So we know the artery has a small lumen and has thick walls, while the vein has a large lumen and has thin walls, because the lumen is big because the walls are thin, but the artery's lumen is small because the walls are thick. So the answer over here is these two can be crossed out, because here it says the lumen is large of an artery. Here it says artery has a small lumen, so this is also crossed out, and here since vein has a large and thin wall, which is this one is correct. So the answer is C. What happens to a muscle cell as it contracts? So when we contract our muscle cell, you can try on your bicep, the muscle cells become shorter. It doesn't become bigger or longer, it becomes shorter. So the answer is shorter. Which type of muscle is found in the walls of internal organs? So internal organs in the sense of the stomach and all. So we know that skeletal muscle is found on the skeleton. It's attached to the skeleton, so like our bicep and all. The cardiac muscle is only on the heart, so the heart is also not there. Smooth muscle, however, is in the internal organs. Voluntary muscle is the skeletal muscles, because you can control when they move. So the answer here is the smooth muscle. Complete the definition of the term transpiration. Transpiration is the loss of water from plant leaves by Transpiration is the loss of water vapor through evaporation from the surfaces of mesophyll or from the stomata. So the answer is evaporation. Since evaporation at the surfaces of dash cells, so mesophyll cells, followed by diffusion of water vapor through the stomata, because diffusion occurs through the stomata where the plant loses the water. Fig 3.1 is a diagram of a cross-section of a human heart. Draw an X on Fig 3.1 to define the position of the left atrium. So when we look at our hands, the right hand of ours is the left side on the heart, because it's like you take a heart and you flip it. So over here, the atrium is the top part, the ventricle is the bottom part. Over here, so our right side, which is the left atrium, is here. Left atrium is over here. So we can put an X on it. On Fig 3.3, label the line with a label line and the correct name of a structure that ensures the one-way flow of blood, which is valves. You can see the valves over here and here. So it's called valves. State two letters that identify arteries in Fig 3.1. It is D and A because arteries are the top. So the two letters that define arteries, not atriums, arteries. So atriums, arteries are blood vessels, and over here the only two highlighted blood vessels are B and C. So the answer is B and C. State the name of the part that separates the left and right sides of the heart. We already saw this question, similar, which is called the septum above. State the name of the main tissue the wall of the heart is made from. It's made from cardiac tissue or cardiac muscles. The diagram shows a cell from a plant leaf. Name structures A and B. So A is obviously the nucleus because it is circular. B is the cell wall. Not the cell wall, cell membrane. Structure C is the chloroplast. What is the function of a chloroplast? Chloroplast is the main site where photosynthesis takes place, so we can write photosynthesis. The table gives one difference between plant and animal cells. Complete the table to give two more differences. So the plant cell has a cell wall and has a vacuole. So no cell wall and no vacuole. The diagram shows an animal cell. Name each labeled part and give its function. So the first one is A, which is the cell membrane. You can see it's pointing here. Controls the movement of substances in and out of the cell. And B is pointing towards, you can see it's like a little bit, so that's the cytoplasm. And the second one is cytoplasm. So we can write chemical reactions. And C is the nucleus. Which controls the cell's activities and contains genetic material. I'll just write controls cell activities. Our lungs help us to breathe. The image shows the human breathing system. Name part A. Part A is the alveoli, which we can see. So we'll write alveoli, which is like these balloon type structures in the lungs. So one function of ribs is to protect the lungs. Use the correct answer from the box to complete the sentences. Oxygen moves from the air inside the lungs into the blood by the process of diffusion, because we know diffusion takes place in the alveoli. So the answer here will be diffusion. Use the correct answer from the box to complete the sentence. Oxygen moves from the lungs into the blood through the walls of the through the blood walls of the so over here it is like this. So this is the alveoli and it's surrounded by blood vessels. These blood vessels are known as capillaries because they are very thin and they allow diffusion quickly. So the answer is capillaries. All organisms must maintain a balance between water gain and water loss. State the name of the type of cell which absorbs water into a plant. This is the root hair cell in the root, because it absorbs the mineral ions and water. State the name of the tissue in a plant that transports water. This is the xylem, which you already learned before. State the name of the organ in a plant where the most water loss occurs. This is called the stomata, where most water loss occurs in a plant. Identify these structures on Fig 5.1. Atrium, septum, ventricle, and valve. So the septum is the middle part here. So septum. Atrium is these two are atriums. The ventricle is the bottom part here. And then the valves, which are this, and this.